Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. Pages 761 and 62 on this point here that we've been unraveling to see what we can get throughout our days and from before to now, and what it is that you can come up with. Ask yourself this: what is resistance? So I will begin to read as we go on. I want you to find a beautiful place that you can just release and let go and feel the trust enough to just surrender and find that peace from within, that still point. And by all means, enjoy the atmosphere from my holographic field to yours, and resonate this excitement, this youthfulness from all around, refreshing, invigorating, and see it as resilience rather than to push up against it in a kind of resistance. See how we can use it and make it work for us. And I will begin to read right now. So, when stale ideas are not ready to be released for the more refreshing, something happens in that a formation of such accumulation can produce clutter. Does the self have to work through it all, or just throw it all out like junk? So, answer me this: how much clutter do you have, and how does it make you feel? And do you feel like there's just too many things in the way? Maybe we need to change that to make it work for us, because that's what resistance brings. So, whenever you're ready, let's begin. Take a few deep breaths in and out, and just feel the chi, the life force coming in from God, Father, and Mother, from the earth. God. So whenever you're ready, feel comfortable enough to soak in these words for today, or rather let it soak in and see what you get throughout the day. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. And take another deep breath in. Center it here in the heart space center. Resonate with it and release it out into your holographic field. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuff down emotions to clear it all away. Another deep breath in. And just open up your rib cage. Breathe deep. And exhale out. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuff down and motion to clear it all away. So much is coming up to process. And from this energy, the cooperation all around to work alongside in this contribution toward the higher collective. The clutter is a struggle with time onto its own. And from the space, these programs, it will take up within and physically, outwardly. Today, find some examples to give to this idea and then see how it can be applicable. Maybe the unpacking of many boxes to clear the space has never been easy, and particularly during the moments of self-care and restoration. This reflection of its space needing to refine in reverence and respect. It keeps on repeating and as a theme to mean for something. What is it that we're tripping over in the unharmonious public spaces or even in the private spaces of clutter? Perhaps life does not have to be so hard in its exclusions to be exclusive. In the struggle of past conflicts unresolved and that cause the self to split off into many fragments of itself with background people and noise and toxic, polluted, static thoughts, the factions and ruling class perhaps resembling over the many, but to name a few. Once these old programs can be let go of, the self can then clearly look outside itself even, to its own reflection, and in this way to follow always. Nothing is to be overlooked on the stage of theater, for in the presence of observing and observed this reality, stay calm and centered, and while all the chaos of Shakespeare's theater is going on all around, just become amused and notice where refinement must take place. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuff down emotions to clear it all away. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective's finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. Enlightenment comes to mind, to lighten up and just take things lightheartedly and playful as a child. And so there's no need for seeking relevance and significance to distract and take away the attention and focus and invade your personal space from others, and to allow it because we just happen to be this way, very kind, and this kindness gets taken for granted in such a way, not so much as people pleasing, but having to set boundaries and make things private in a public space. So why is this control so much an issue, and from all the many levels? Who is, in actual fact, the author of the story, and that the self must find to hold connection with? Of this, its power, connection to thyself. Disconnect, desensitizations of all your senses is losing power, and it's giving it away to those distractions that helps to disconnect and empower, in not so much a benefit for others, because they lose themselves in the process. So they're not benefiting from you doing so. It's a level of maturity that not everybody has reached, and as such falls into this area of codependent relationships. Look at me, you have to, otherwise I lack the relevance, the significance, and I fall into the category of compartmentalizing this thing that we label as abandonment and neglect, when in actual fact we've already done so by seeking approval from the outside, the mirrors. So these parts that it must work on to refresh within itself and rewrite the script. These stories that we tell ourselves, that of what we've been through and experiences of how it can bring together, will indeed reveal, and for its very own authenticity. All this connecting and unifying moments have its way with all. Sometimes we feel bullied, and so they call it redevelopment. They just change the names, and it's just another form of invasion, divide and conquer. So we put you into categories and groups, and who are you going to vote this time around, and so on and so forth. So feel this disconnect. Where does it feel? Where do you feel this discomfort? Find these pockets of resistance. Do not stuff it back down and back. Rather, follow the plasmic thread, and to where the agitation, rather irritation, is very high, and where in actual fact it was created. instead of our society getting rid of these sugars that we give to children, and they just go bonkers off the wall, bouncing off the walls, and just really agitated and crazy in their bodies in response to it. And then they go into really lows from the very highs, in almost like a parasite invasion, that they get this kind of mental temporary disorder. That's another thing. And then we go on about carbon, when in actual fact we should be removing the sugars and the processed and refinement of them. Why go after the carbon when in actual fact it's the sugars and the photosynthesis of it all? And let's face it, we are still carbon copies working through our dark nights of the soul, working through our inner shadows, these things we call demons, sometimes even parasites that we must detoxify from. So from silicone to crystalline, enlightenment comes to mind again. We must work through these emotional attachments, these burdens, these weights that we hold, and bring us to the bottom of the ocean instead of, like bobbing up to the surface by letting go. The natural thing to do. Instead, we struggle and strife and resist to keep ourselves down. And so, yeah. So this upset and anger from suppressed emotions have to be experienced somehow. And if not through you, it will be reflected out in your circumstances, wanting to take away from your space in order for them to be released. Be the warrior of light, and from within the peace, stand up, and in this way to defend and be counted on. These parts that the self resists directly or indirectly through its circumstances are what make up for the whole of its authenticity. So, right, why are we not getting rid of the sugars? Instead, we're going after the carbon. The carbon. And we're limiting ourselves to the amount of oxygen by doing so. So where is the logic even? Nothing really makes sense. Does it ever? But we still go chasing after the logic and the sense of within reason. What are we allowing and empowering and accepting to conform into? And compromising in our comfort of mediocrity. Sometimes even giving up our very basic needs like shelter and food even. Like, we don't even realize how much into this reality of hybridization we've accepted. It's been going on since the 90s with genetically modified food. Now it's genetically modified humans and genetically modified this and that, and into the digital world, here we go. And the metaverse and everything that we have biologically blessed with, inherently born with, we have given up and empowered the falseness, the inverted, the outside, from the outside synthetic, digital, artificial intelligence, man-made God. So by learning to connect in this way, are we not disconnecting? Are we not disconnecting from our own power, this control to have over ourselves autonomously with our parasympathetic and sympathetic systems? Or are we giving them away to be enslaved into a system that's disconnecting us and controlling over us? Dark magic, if you will. That's only two-dimensional. Think of the programs, these structures that we create in a three-dimensional reality, and then we go and we put these goggles on and we experience another world where our soul can get entrapped and trapped into. We become lost souls. This is the Hungarian Google guy. Check him out, the book. I believe it's called The Lost Souls or something like that to do with. And that's where Google actually took its name from. So there was a man named Google not too long ago who did write a book. Look it up. So by learning to connect, or rather reconnect into our own sensibility of senses and extrasensory perceptions, is to trust and go with by completely surrendering to the resistance. It takes a level of maturity and to know thyself before we end up getting lost in the other external circumstances. And how do we do that? We start out by leveraging within every moment by moment that creates momentum. Within the 17-second moment, every snapshot that creates the next. How is it that we're feeling? This creates our frequency. And what is it that's making us feel this way? Is it our thoughts? This acceptance is the self in the way of taking back its power peacefully and most maturely. Do not procrastinate. Feel it out. Be it rejection, fear, grief. Make it today the practice of releasing all control and to dissolve the issue and search from either side. By addressing it internally, the outside control to that it resists and or pushes against and or vice versa. Desensitization that I don't hear anything, I don't feel anything. So in this way, it's no longer subtle, it's rambunctious and bombastic and immature levels of wanting to desensitize you, where they will come right at you in your space. And even if they have to, beam LED lights right in your eyes, or make loud noise and vibration so to take you out of your own frequency, push or pull, vice versa. That you will feel the resistance somewhere, or maybe you will not, until it hits you with a 2x4 and actually stands in your way and pushes you in the water. The purpose is to recognize that any emotion that is stuffed back down, just listen to it in your circumstances, in your background noise. Isn't this amazing? Well, this will have to, again, be reinvested in. Feel for it properly and most thoroughly. Let it come out. Bring it out. Bring it out now. And let me hear you say these words out loud as I continue. Listen in. And I will leave you with today's words, hoping you will join me again. My universe is infinite. when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective's finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it all away. My universe is infinite when I can oversee through the collective finite clutter and process such stuffed down emotions to clear it